I never lose things. I can tell you that in the course of my life, the amount of times that I have actually lost something, I could probably count on one hand. That is how rare it is for me to lose things. I'm super mindful, I guess, or I'm just not the type of person who typically loses things. Well, until a couple of weeks ago. And so in this video, what I'm basically going to do is demonstrate a horary chart on a missing object. And this is one of the most incredible uses of horary. And it's funny because when I was studying horary astrology and I took my course, I kept thinking to myself, you know, how am I going to practice looking for missed items, missing objects when I really don't lose things? And, I didn't think I was going to have enough of an opportunity to hone in on the particular skill of whether or not you could recover a missing object or where the missing item can be found. And so at the same time, it is one of the greatest strengths of Horary astrology. So, as the universe would have it, I was put in the position where I lost something. And when I lost this item, which I'm going to tell you all about in a second, I said to myself, after a certain amount of time passed and I tried to look for it, I said, okay, I think I'm going to ask a horary, will I recover this item? And so this video is going to demonstrate horary techniques that I learned in order to judge this particular chart. So if you are someone who is interested in the branch of astrology called Horary astrology, then please stick around. This is not going to be me teaching you how to be a Horary astrologer. That is a very vast, in-depth study that you have to take on, and you must spend hours and hours mastering this and, skillfully applying the techniques to become proficient at it. But if you are a student of horary astrology or you are interested in this branch, then you will find this video interesting to follow along with and fun. And even if you're not, if you're someone who is a consumer, a a person who has hired a horary astrologer or who is considering hiring a horary astrologer to answer one of your urgent life questions, you get to see how at least this missing object horary is cast and judged. So that's what this video is going to be about. It may interest you, it may not. Obviously, you're free to click off if it doesn't. There's going to be a lot of technical terminology and that I'm talking about, and I'm not going to do so much teaching. I will give you certain points about missing objects in horary charts and how to locate them, but it's going to be minimal. Remember, when I do these horary videos, I am doing them because I am in that transition place as a professional astrologer, where before I start charging for this service of being a horary astrologer, I wanted to have enough experience, enough practice. And so I am putting these videos out there so that you can come on that journey with me, so that you can see how astrologers learn how to apply the techniques that they have studied responsibly before they go and offer the services professionally. At least that's my methodology. So that's why I have this horary section on my YouTube channel. And this branch of astrology is not for everyone. It is nothing like natal astrology. Natal astrology and uh, and looking at a horoscope through that lens is completely different from horary astrology. Horary astrology has a whole different system, whole different set of rules, and it is a branch of judicial astrology. It is pure predictive astrology. You are going to judge from that chart, yes or no, pure and simple. And I personally find that fascinating. Some people find it's not their cup of tea, and that's perfectly fine. We all have our interests. So let's get back to my little story and how this chart came about. And for those of you who are new here, sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Maria Di Simone. I am a professional astrologer. You can find out more about me and my work over at insightfulastrology.com, where I have an entire astrology school offering classes from the beginner's level all the way through the advanced. I've got consultations, astrology coaching, video horoscopes. Your 2025 video horoscopes are out, ready for purchase. So many webinars, lots of products and content. So go over to insightfulastrology.com if you're interested in that. I hope you decide to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I put out tons of free content here. And if you do enjoy this video, make sure you hit that like button, leave a kind comment. If you are a Horary astrologer, I welcome your additional insights into this chart because this is fun. This was fun, but losing what I lost was not fun. And now let's talk about this sad, sad story. So I finally went on my photo shoot because I'm redoing my website. And this was a long time coming. And I went to Centerport, New York, Long Island. It's near Huntington. And that's where the photographer was. That's where the photo shoot was. And I had an amazing day with the photographer doing the photo shoot. She made me feel comfortable. It was just really great. And I brought a couple of props because I wanted to give people the feel of me as an astrologer on my website with the new photos. So I brought a couple of astrology books that were meaningful to me. I brought something that my dear friend Doreen gave me years ago. It is called an Astrolabe. And I'm going to show you what an astrolabe is because this is the item that I lost at the photo shoot. So I was devastated when I lost it. And here's the spoiler alert. When I put the horary chart up, you are going to see, did I find the astrolabe or did I have to buy a new one? Did I not find the astrolabe? Actually, I'm not even going to tell you. I'm going to show you the astrolabe, and you're going to have to stick around and wait and watch the video if you want to know if this is a recovered, found object or if I never found it and I had to buy a new one. Stay tuned. So, an astrolabe is an ancient tool. Like, this is so ancient. It was invented by the astronomer Hipparchus in 150 BC. Yeah, that's how old it is. And Claudius Ptolemy, in about 140 AD, developed a similar type of astrolabe. And what ended up happening is this astrolabe was used as a mathematical, astronomical device for many, many, many hundreds, thousands of years to measure altitudes of the sun or stars to calculate the time of position. And later on, it became a representation of the celestial sphere meant to answer more complicated questions. And it basically became a way for astrologers to calculate the alignment, where the planets were relative to the sky. So before software, before or tables of houses and everything else, ancient astronomers and astrologers used this device to create horoscopes in ancient times. And this is the device. Okay, so I'm going to show it to you. And there are two parts to it. So this is one. Now, I don't know if you can clearly see. This moves. Okay, so this part moves. And it's beautiful. This is very heavy. It's bronze, I believe. Now, here's the other side of it. And you will see the zodiac. You will see the signs of the zodiac. It's amazing. This is a sacred object for sure. And when my friend Doreen gave this to me years ago, I obviously don't know how to use it. I'm a modern astrologer. So I don't know how to actually use it, but I display this very proudly in my office. It's something that I love. So I said, you know what, for my photo shoot, I want to take some pictures with this. And the photographer said, I know exactly what we're going to do. At the end of the photo shoot, I'm going to take you to this park nearby, and I want to take pictures of you in the forest holding the astrolabe. So this was her idea, and this is what we did. And this was the end of the photo shoot. We went there and we took great pictures. Can't wait for you to see them on my website when it's all done. And then I was holding the astrolabe for a lot of the pictures. And then she said to me, okay, Maria, put the astrolabe down. And then I want you to walk back and forth. She had me walk down the forest for a certain amount of steps and then turn around and walk forward. And she was getting shots of me doing that. So that's what we did for a while. And then we wrapped up the photo shoot. We were done. And she said to me, you may want to take a walk here. It's a beautiful park and there's a beautiful path and it's a gorgeous day. So, go take a walk and enjoy it. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I will. When am I ever going to be here again? So I took a walk. She left. I took a walk for a little while and then I started getting lost. And I said, wait a second. I don't know where I am exactly, and I'm alone, and it was starting to get dark and later. I said, I'm not gonna chance it. So I turned around, retraced my steps before I got too far into the forest, and I got in my car and I went home. Well, I didn't realize it until the very next day that I left the astrolabe there in the park. And when I realized it the next day, I remembered that after we took the pictures of me holding it, I was holding it and all that, I put the astrolabe down in front of a tree where there were lots of twigs and leaves. And I just laid it down there, thinking, all right, I'll just put it there for a second, finish the pictures that she wanted me to take walking, and then I'll grab it. And that's what I thought in my mind. And then I got distracted when we finished the photo shoot and she told me about taking a walk and pointed out the path to take. And I forgot that I left the astrolabe by the tree. So now it's the next day and I realize it's lost. And I didn't text the photographer because I knew she was leaving to go on vacation. And I said to myself, okay, I can't bother her to ask her to drive all the way back to this park. She already went out of her way to take me to this park to do this additional photo shoot outdoors that I didn't even contract her to do. She just did that because she was so excited about the pictures that we would get. I couldn't bother her. I knew she was leaving to go on vacation. And I also knew that I was going to see her within the next 10 to 14 days after she got back to get the pictures, to look at everything and to approve certain pictures and all of that. And I said to myself, all right, I'm going to have to give this one up to God and have some faith that leaves are going to fall over the astrolabe and it'll get covered and nobody's going to notice it and it'll be there when I go to her house, I'll ask her for directions to go back to the park and try to find it. So that's what I did. And I went to her house and then I went to the park and looked around for the astrolabe. And I asked the question, will I find my astrolabe? So now, folks, after that long introduction, let's put the chart up and let me teach you a few things about locating missing items in a horary chart. So remember, I'm going to share my screen, actually. Let me remember to do that. Sorry, guys. Share the screen, and I'm putting up the chart now. So give me a second to make this bigger. You should all be able to see. And I don't have it set to a horary wheel just to keep it clean and easy for you guys to see. But I have already looked at all of the horary elements and things like that. This is just a very clean wheel. Remember that for horary astrology, we must use a house system called the Regiomontanus house system. So this chart has been cast for that. And the question was, will I find my astrolabe? So let's start. I am the querent. The querent is the person asking the question. And I am going to be the first house, any planets in the first house, and the ruler of the first house indicates the querent. The chart is absolutely radical because I am a Taurus sun, and here we have Taurus rising fairly close to the degree of my sun sign. And Uranus is here in the first house. Now, in traditional astrology and in traditional horary astrology, we don't use the outer planets. We use them to give more descriptive detail if they are angular, but usually we do not add them to our analysis. But this was very interesting because Uranus is in Taurus. I am an astrologer. In modern astrology, Uranus rules astrology. In traditional astrology, Mercury is the planet that would rule astrologers. And so it is interesting that Uranus is there in the first house. This was all very descriptive of me, the querent, the astrologer, the Taurus. Now we go and look to the ruler of the ascendant, and it's Venus. Here is Venus in Sagittarius, and I have a moon in Sagittarius. So this chart is very radical. These are ways to test the radicality, the accuracy, the validity of a horary chart. So I determined right away I have a radical chart, check. So here I am, Venus. Well, now I have to see if my significators are making any contact to the planet or planets that signify the missing object. So here, when we are talking about missing objects, missing items, we are looking at the second house in astrology because the second house is your movable possessions. And so here we have Mercury is the ruler of the second house. Mercury is here, angular, on the seventh house cusp in Scorpio. And we have a planet in the second house, Jupiter, in Gemini. And it is very interesting that the item lost was an astrolabe. It was a physical device that ancient astrologers used to help create a horoscope. And sure enough, that is very symbolic with Mercury being the ruler of this item. And, Jupiter and Gemini symbolizing the multifaceted uses of an astrolabe and what it was used for as a mathematical device, an ancient device. So I thought that was super interesting. Now, the Lord of the second house and the Lord of the second house will symbolize the goods or the item lost, but the moon also symbolizes the goods or the item lost. And the moon is here in Cancer in the third house. And the moon is in its sign of rulership. The moon is actually exactly conjunct my natal fourth house cusp. This chart was so radical, it was ridiculously radical. So I knew I could trust the answer that I was going to find with this chart. So here's the moon in Cancer, symbolizing the item lost. It's in the third house. Now, it is cadent. It is in a cadent house. And that wasn't really promising because when a missing item is in a ruler, is in a cadent house, it's not good testimony for recovery. However, we have the ruler of the second in an angular house, which is good testimony for recovery, but you're going to see the storyline and how it unfolds in a minute. The fourth house in horary astrology is very interesting when we look at missing items because the fourth house symbolizes, and the Lord of the fourth house symbolizes the place where it is laid or put down, the item, the actual lost item. And in that particular instant of time. Okay, so you can find out directions. And I'm not going to get into directions of north and east and south and west by south and all of that, because to be honest, that can get very complicated for me. At my level, I know there are some astrologers that happen to be really good with directions. I am not. I'm not good with directions on a normal day. So, with a horary chart, directions are not my strength. So, I'm going to leave that part alone and I'm going to focus on what I am strong with. And so, what is interesting is that we've got this is this is just so interesting. Where the item was misplaced is going to be represented by that fourth house in some way. So here we have a planet, Mars, conjunct the fourth house cusp in Cancer, and the moon rules this fourth house cusp. So in my notes from my horary class, and by the way, it was Deb Holdings' horary astrology course for professional astrologers that I took. If you're interested in a course like that, it's a very in-depth 5 or 6 month class that you get certification for. So she has incredible, videos and notes, and it's the School for Traditional Astrology, if you're interested in that. So in the notes from the missing objects lesson, when we talk about the location significations of signs and planets, Cancer, the sign Cancer will symbolize that the missing item will be possibly near the ocean, ponds, or water. Remember that. Utility rooms, laundries, wash houses, bathrooms, kitchens, cisterns. Now, I just told you this was a forest, a park, right? And I put the item down by a tree where there were leaves and twigs. But when I tell you the name of this park, you're going to die. Okay. So remember that. Then we look at the moon, and the moon also talks about places of water. And then we have Mars and Cancer there. And Mars and Cancer symbolizes someone else, because the seventh house, when you are looking at a missing item chart, the seventh house can point to another person who either stole the item or found the item. And here we have the ruler of the seventh, Mars, conjunct the fourth house. So somebody else was physically where I put the item down, where I lost the item. That testimony says that very clearly. So now let's go back to the answering the question first. The question is, will I find the astrolabe? And in order to answer that question, we have to see testimony of the rulers of me and the lost item connecting in some positive way, with some positive testimony. So Venus is in Sagittarius, and that's me. Mercury, the ruler of the lost item, is in Scorpio. And as you can see, Venus has long separated from Mercury. Mercury is not applying to Venus. Venus is not, it's moving far away. So me and the object are disconnected. We are not connected at all. In addition, the moon in Cancer is not making any aspect to me, Venus. There's no connection. So right away, you can look at this chart and you have two testimonies of no. There's another testimony of no if you look to Venus making an opposition to Jupiter, a planet that's in the second house. And remember that Jupiter is in a dual-bodied sign, Gemini. Venus very specifically is saying that I am moving towards Jupiter. Jupiter is retrograde. This is going to be a mutual application. And there is reception because Venus is in the sign that is ruled by Jupiter. So this is an opposition with reception. That actually can seem like testimony of I'm going to get an astrolabe, the astrolabe. But you have to be very, very judicious with these charts. I have two very clear points of testimony that I will not find the astrolabe, but I have testimony here with Venus moving to that opposition with reception that I'm going to have my hands on an astrolabe. And Jupiter is in the dual bodied sign of Gemini. And so, folks, the judgment of the chart is that no, I will not find the astrolabe. And no, I did not find the astrolabe. And this I bought. I had to scour the internet to find this rare astrolabe. If you look it up, if you do a Google search, this is not easy to find and it's not cheap. And I'm so sad that I lost the original astrolabe that my friend Doreen gave me. But this meant so much to me that I knew I had to replace it. And so I did. And I spent the money and I bought a new astrolabe. And that is very much symbolized by Venus opposite Jupiter there with reception. Okay, so now we're going to go to some other points of, well, if I'm not going to find the astrolabe, can this chart tell me what happened to it? What happened to the astrolabe? So remember, I said I lost it, I put it down by a tree. And the park that I went to, the testimony here is talking about water, ponds, right? And I put it down by a tree with leaves, and it was damp, and there was some, like a pool, a little bit of a pool of water there. So there was a little bit of water there, but that wasn't too extraordinary. What was extraordinary was the name of the park. So when I asked the photographer to give me the address of the park so I could go and look, she texted it to me, and it is called Betty Allen Twin Ponds Nature Park. Twin Ponds. Ponds, guys. Ponds. And maybe you can read into it, twins with the third house. You can, the symbolism of astrology is dynamite. Literally, the name of the park has ponds in it. And Cancer testimony, the moon, it's water ponds are listed as potential. So I thought that was pretty amazing. Now let's figure out what happened to the astrolabe. Look at the moon. The moon is at 13 degrees of Cancer, and that's the missing object. And Mercury is also the missing object, but Mercury is something else here. Mercury is a co-significator for another person, someone who may have found the object. And so is Mars, right? Mars rules the seventh house. Mars is here, right by the missing object. And Mercury, the missing object, here is right by the person. So now we're getting some strong symbolism for another person found the object. And look at this, guys. The moon in Cancer applies to a trine with Mercury immediately. And then the moon in Cancer will also apply to a conjunction with Mars, the two significators of another person. And I do believe that it was two people. So I don't necessarily think that it was one person who found the item. I think that there was a younger person and an older person, a more, maybe middle-aged person, because Mercury typically is younger people. And Mars is in Cancer. The actual ruler of the seventh house is in a sign that tends to be fruitful and tends to symbolize more than one person. And we have two planets in the seventh house. So there are a few testimonies here that suggest it was more than one person who found the astrolabe, and it might have been female energy because there's a lot of feminine connections and feminine signs and testimony. The moon in Cancer, applying to Mars in Cancer. Yes, Mars is masculine, but in the sign Cancer, it changes that. And Mercury in Scorpio, that is a feminine sign. So there's more testimony for feminine, like female. So I'm going to say that I believe it was a younger person with an adult, and they might have found it. And most likely it was two females. It's possible that one of them was a male. We'll never really know. But this chart looks like it was two females to me, and they found it immediately. Look at how fast the object goes to the other person. The object went far away from me, but it was immediately in the hands of Mercury in the seventh house, the other person, and then Mars, the ruler of the seventh house. So I thought that was incredible. It was very, very specific, clear testimony that my missing astrolabe was found by someone else and they picked it up, and they probably saw it as something very mystical, possibly occult related, because Mercury's in Scorpio and Scorpio's here. So they probably didn't know what it was. And they probably thought it was, maybe something that a witch uses, or, people do spells, and it was there in the park right by a tree. So maybe they thought I was, whoever left it was doing some kind of spell, for all we know. No, I just dropped it, left it there after a photo shoot. It was as simple as that. That's what the astrologer did. But that item was taken. And that is why when I went to the park and I went to that tree, it wasn't there. It wasn't there, guys. And I was so sad about it. But casting the Horary chart gave me some peace. It gave me the, acceptance of, look, the original astrolabe is lost. Someone else has it. I'm not going to get it back. And I bought a new one to replace it. So that is my latest horary chart. I hope you found this interesting to watch, and I hope you followed along with it. And remember, the rules of horary astrology are totally different than natal astrology. So there's a lot that I didn't explain because I'm not teaching you horary astrology. This is not a full lesson on finding missing objects. This was an example chart. But look, I got my astrolabe back, and this one's never leaving my house. I can tell you that much. And when my friend Doreen comes over, I'm going to have her hold it and put all of her energy on it for me. And it's going to feel as good as the one she gave me. That's what I am intending to do, because I lost the original one. All right, guys, that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.